Oh hey, here are the disclaimers. Please enjoy. Also, here's a closer look at these ones, because holy hell, it's long. Days continued to pass. I had my meals, but the unease in the air felt suffocating. Worse yet, I found myself worried for them. I sat, staring at the wall in order to process this revelation. Creator and creation, they were no more. No, they were Violo and Vivere now, and I was worried. Was Vivere's health improving with my distance? Was Violo able to find a solution to let me be near them again? Why did I want to be near them? I had to dig through memories of my old relationships to figure it out. When it came down to it, our relationships were mostly platonic, non-sexual, never with men, only about sex, not true love, about romance, not sex, equal parts romance and sex. I guess it's my previous relationships were equal parts, I'd say. Yeah. One didn't live as a famous mercenary without a few equally famous entanglements. Of course, with my luck, those entanglements often ended with my near death. Flirting wasn't unfamiliar to me, and I'd have to be an idiot to not notice the way they spoke to me. The promises implied a long future, and they were growing less frightening by the day. I'd found romance in weirder places. One doesn't travel all across the Chain Isles without such encounters. Would they really want me forever? The moment that question echoed over and over in my mind, uncontrollable and unwelcome, I stood up and paced. I was being ridiculous. I was leaving this island no matter what. Was that really the best idea for me, though? The drowning monotony finally ended with an all-too-familiar sound. The wheezing beast slammed the door open and hobbled inside the room. It keened softly at me. The chorus of its voices shook awkwardly. The posture of the beast was completely different from what I had remembered. It no longer towered over me, and it scratched at the ground near me, rather than grabbed at my chains. I'm guessing you want me to follow you? It nodded. Very well then. I had my guess as to where it was taking me. Violo's library looked better than the last time I saw it. Had I not seen the carnage myself, I never thought anything would go wrong.
My dear.
Treasure, right on time. His enthusiasm wavered under the weight of exhaustion. I recognized his current body as being one of his perfect ones, but he still looked worse for wear. Violo, when have you last slept? Living gods don't need to sleep. Our minds eventually force us smaller, minute-based naps after we begin dying, but technically, we function mostly okay without it. That wasn't what I asked. I walked up beside him and waited for his response. His frantic hands finally slowed down. They trembled on top of a tray of tools. It's been about 6 days. You know, if I were like that unhealthy idiot of a snow crow, I'd probably be used to this, but I find the negative effects of sleep. Violo. His oncoming babble stopped. His pout made my heart twist. Are you going to rest after we do whatever this is? Maybe. You should. We don't know if it's going to work first. Look, I don't care. I will tuck you in myself if I have to. Even if it doesn't, you should still rest. Not possible. I can't rest until we've figured this out, but I am pretty confident in my current idea. Go on then. What is it? You are an abomination. I stared at him. An affront to all natural order, and that was done on purpose. Okay, and can you tell me something I don't know about myself? I wonder if I could stare a hole through him. No, not an insult. It's actually good. You're something I've been waiting for. Waiting for? Violo nodded so fast I wondered if he'd snap his own neck. You are a miracle that happens so rarely. You are a child of two lucidities. My mind hopped back to the conversation Vivere and I had. That statement made no sense. I can barely use intermediate magic. Oh, that's because you're not normal. You see, the wall that separates the realm between from the realm beneath is a hard barrier to cross from either side. It's where the gods sequester themselves, after all. Now, human minds naturally go to the realm between when they sleep, but only 2 of the fragments of dream can cross the wall to the realm beneath. One of those fragments has been lost to the other side. I plan on recovering him, but that will take some time. The other one, poor Daydream, isn't strong enough to influence the make of a human. Perceptions, yes. Physical form, no. That power lies with fantasy, nightmare, and void, but they are bound to the realm between. I felt like I was staring at a puzzle with blank pieces. Lucidities are those blessed with the power of the sleeping dream. Why their sleeping host chooses people, the fragments can never know. He can't speak anymore. But those lucidities can interact with the realm between. They serve as a bridge. Through them, the fragments of dream can touch this world. Fantasy and nightmare touched me when I was young. Through them, life was able to reach me through her torment and grant me her power. Possibility. Your ability is a gift from a god you want to kill. I might as well have stabbed Vivere for how angry he looked.
What?
Oh, not life! Never life! Life did not agree to this. They have her fragmented beyond function. All she can do is occasionally pull herself together for a thought. His voice dripped with sorrow and venom. They forced her to create more life as they twisted, but they care not for the damage they caused. He shook his head in disgust. Life and her torment are another story for another time. Just like how I granted a blessing from the fragment of dream, you were given something too, albeit closer to a curse. The azure bone cage. That is the question you are a solution for. The bone cage, the place where Nakare slaughtered the god of justice with her bare hands. The decaying corpse of the god that was permanently warped the surrounding area, creating a nearly inhospitable environment. I'd heard that the Godbreaker had worked to make it livable, but I'd never seen the place myself. We needed a way to remove those pesky god corpses, and here you are. You are a gate from the realm beneath to the realm between. You are a door to the fragment of dream. They can handle the corpses of the gods. We won't have to risk this world during the slaughter now. It's amazing! I feel so foolish for not thinking about it logically. I kept trying to find some issue with you or a problem from one of those bastards, but no. You were a gift. For me. For the war effort. Which means I can fix this! I've already begun to understand your whole situation myself. Biolo held out his hand. I watched a small black hole rip open the fabric of reality. Within it, I could see a surrealist landscape, ever-changing and unnatural. My hands trembled slightly. He had what he needed of me then. I no longer held any value. So why was he keeping me here? Of course, I don't know if my understanding is perfect. That is why we experiment. The issue you're causing is quite simple. You are a gate with no door. So, I will merely add a door to that gaping hole. You will no longer be a gaping Wait, I need to know! How are you going to stuff this proverbial hole of mine? I need to know this. Like, are you going to shove another hole in me? What are you shoving inside of me? I need to know this before I agree. I'm going to put a sealant spell on you and make up the key series to control how much the door opens. A sealant spell was the worst punishment a magic user could receive in the Chain Isles. They would be able to absorb the energies of the world they needed to survive, but their magic would be functionally gone, sealed away. The worst part, though, a sealant can never be removed once placed, and the individual could never possess the key made for it. My magic would be at his mercy, even long after this experiment was over. No chance in hell. I need to learn more. Yeah, it's fine. It's not as if I could use magic in the first place. It would be a lie to say magic wasn't convenient. I was gonna miss it. Viola wouldn't hurt me, right? The certainty of that internal statement had me rocking back on my heels. He wouldn't. I really believed that. I was safe. My breath came in slightly ragged. Treasure? Viola turned and gently grabbed my hands.
What?
What's wrong? Are you scared? I can go over the procedure in more detail if you want. No, it's not that. I felt like crying. I felt stupid for feeling like crying, but the sudden sureness of my vulnerability left my knees weak. What is it then? Am I safe? Viola let out a concerned noise. Of course you are. I have no intention of harming you. Neither does Vivere. Viola squeezed my hands comfortingly. Yeah. I hated how good that felt to hear. Let's get you settled comfortably, okay? I need to make sure the sleeping tonics are fresh if we want them to be gentle. That is going to take some time. Well, that's alright to me. Viola fussed over making the table as comfortable as possible for me. I laid atop blankets and pillows while he worked. To keep my mind distracted, I asked him questions. Why am I important? Because you're you. Not like that. I covered my face with my hands to hide my embarrassment. Why is it important that my parents were both Lucidities? Once a human being is formed, it becomes near impossible to add things to them. Well, good things. There's a reason why curses always cause damage. That's why most people are blessed from birth or get blessings that are not intermixed with them. Is there a difference between an intermixed blessing and one that isn't? The latter is easier to remove and never as powerful since it's technically borrowed. If a blessing is added during conception, though, it becomes spread throughout the child's body and becomes theirs. Normally, a lucidity only receives their blessing later on in the womb, near the end of their time there. You had that blessing from the moment you were nothing more than an amorphous blob in your mother's belly. That meant that void could put a piece of him into you and modify the lucidity's blessing. You are a gate directly from our world into his miasma, which is where we need to deposit god corpses in the future. Viola turned away from some brewing jars to hold out his hand. A black void that looked into a surreal dreamscape manifested into his hand. From it, a thin, black snake slithered out and began to swim in the air. These are manifestations of the miasma too, given independent sentience in a matter similar to elementals. Whatever this little guy eats will go directly through the wall and into the realm between. I watched the black snake for a time, until the smell of blood caught my attention. Viola's hand was being eaten away, gaping wounds tearing across it. I sat up frantically. Viola noticed and dismissed the orb to come to comfort me. Viola, your hand! Shh. Don't cry. I don't feel it. He poked the meaty remains of his palm. I've modified this replica to not feel pain, a necessary addition after the first one got destroyed outright. I haven't been able to figure out your exact makeup yet. You are part of the gate, so it doesn't consume you. I am technically still other and made out of raw possibility, thus, it wants to eat me alive. I hope to fix this soon, after we deal with the issue of you aggravating my sunshine's condition. I reached out a hand to him, but he hesitated. How do I not eat other people alive then? Violo grabbed my hand and rested his cheek in my palm. You do. Just not so overtly. Right now, you're pulling heavily on my energy. You've probably noticed that people become fatigued or moody when around you too long. You're slowly eating away at them because the gate in you is mercifully very small. He reaches his hand out to my chest. It is about the size of an acorn, if not smaller. Were it any bigger, it would be an issue. Once I figure out how to replicate the parts of your body that make the gate not devour you alive, I'll be able to control it like you can. Down the road, we'll work on helping you get more in tune with the gate. It is a part of you, so I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to control it if you train enough. For now, we don't have that kind of time. One of his jaws began to rumble. He kissed the back of my hand and had me settle back before going back to the potions. His hand never healed itself. Violo, your hand. Wounds left by the miasma on things that are not you cannot be healed with possibility. I'm going to have to cut this hand off and reattach a new one. Is this power really something you need so badly? Yes. Just the death of one god left such a visible mark on the world. Imagine what's going to happen when we kill almost all of them. He gave me a big smile. It will be fine. I'm a genius, treasure. He handed me a sleeping potion to drink in short order. Violo babbled on about the possibilities with my abilities down the line, while I drifted off slowly. I did get to see the uncanny art of him severing the damaged hand, and a new one rapidly growing out of the bleeding stump. See? All better. You can break just about anything on me, treasure. I can take quite a lot of abuse. He stroked my cheek. My sunshine can't, but we'll fix this together. I fell asleep. When I came to, I was in my room. It felt like coming out of one of the most relaxing naps I've ever had. Violo's replica sat at my bedside, my eyes unfocused, chest not moving. I tapped on the bed near him groggily. Violo? No response. Touching him when he wasn't focused on me would be a bad idea, but I did it anyway. I grabbed the back of his shirt and tugged on it. He fell backwards onto me, body stiff and unresponsive. Are you not there? I huffed and went to pat his cheek with my dominant hand. That was when I saw the work that went into my arm. Runes were lovingly carved into my arm, flowing easily across my skin. Fine crystal powder had been gently inserted into the runes and marks, leaving no inflammation or pus. I rolled my shoulder, marveling at the fact the powder didn't seem to make my arm feel any heavier. Isn't this only temporary? I'd tried using crystal spells before. My body always consumed more energy than the mages were willing to expend. Beyond that, the human body will eventually push out inorganic magical material like crystals. I mean, technically, yeah, but I can always just add more. I jumped at the sound of Violo's voice. He gave me a sleepy grin from my lap before sitting up. His hands reached for my altered arm, checking on it. It took a lot of powder to even fill these up, but it should last you a few months. When it starts to get low, you might begin to feel some discomfort from the sealant. I'll refill it then. I thought most sealants were nailed into the person's bones to keep it from leaving them. That's for criminals, treasure. I wouldn't use such barbaric methods on you. Violo tutted at me. How does your arm feel? Any pain? No, I don't even feel fatigued either. Then it's working. Good. You should be able to easily live as a normal person for now. Normal without my magic. I couldn't stop the grumble. Really? Is that what you think? I frowned and reached for my magic. Reaching deep within myself, I sank deep within my own mind. Usually the process required strain and a great deal of effort, but this happened as naturally as breathing. I could feel my magic, damaged and weak from disuse, and whatever blessing I'd been born with. My mind could reach out and grab that magic, pulling it around the hard glass of the sealant in my mind. When I opened my eyes, I realized I'd opened my third eye. The air elementals in the room lazily danced around, minus the ones clinging onto me. It felt funny to feel them scurrying around my throat and mouth to be able to track everything I said. Oh. I felt them buzz, and I could feel the energy going from them to Violo rapidly. Oh, indeed. He pinched my cheek affectionately. Vivere has been hounding me about it for some time. I know you probably don't feel pretty good. Your body is still filtering out that potion, so rest a bit longer. I'd hate for you to try and move around only to crack your skull open. I really want a bath, though. I'll have an aberration prepare some water for you later. He pushed me back down against the pillows. For now, relax. I need to go and adjust my theories and whatnot, but if you need me, call. I nodded and relaxed into the covers. I actually missed Violo after he left, but the joy of being able to summon fire to my hands again helped keep me distracted until I dozed off again. Once I felt the effects of the sleeping potion fully leave my system, I began to investigate the castle anew. Being free of the chains allowed me to move more quietly, and I didn't constantly have to make sure nothing was catching them. Of course, the greatest blessing had to be having my magic once more. The elementals of this place didn't pay too much attention to me, but I could coax them into focusing. No longer did I need to squint to see. I could also finally adjust my temperature to stop sweating in the humidity. The whole castle had felt alive before, but now I could sense each heartbeat of energy pulse through the place. Each aberration had its own warped, skewed aura. Streaks of magic and veins of runes kept the spells on this place alive. In a way, it was beautiful. I was able to delve deeper into the castle. I found the edges of it, only to find that each window revealed a sheer cliff. The castle seemed to be carved onto a mountain before the rest of that mountain had been carved away to make a sharp drop. No plant life grew across the cliff either. I made a rope of fabrics and dragged it across the cliff face from a busted window. There were no tears on the old fabric, meaning the rock had to be polished smooth. Truly, they made this place a death sentence to try and escape. My explorations brought me back to the dining room, starving. To my relief, I found Vivere in there. He looked tired, shaky hands and a pale face, but he also looked better than before. Vivere!
Hello.
Treasure. Hello. You're hungry earlier than usual today. Vivere gestured for the chair next to him to move, and it backed up to give me space to sit. I did so and examined his form closer. No blood pooled from anywhere. He didn't seem bruised. His breathing still sounded poor, but it sounded closer to normal. Yeah, I've been wandering around a bit. I can tell. Your little spells have had the aberrations in a tizzy. Oh, God! I'm sorry. Vivere waved away my concern and patted the back of my hand. It's fine. They need to get used to your magical fingerprint anyway. You'll be here for a while. Be here for a while?
Yes?
Where else would you go, treasure? At least until this whole business with the gods is settled, Pario is the safest place for you to be. Vivere reached out a hand to stroke my cheek. We want you to be comfortable, so it's better for the aberrations to adapt to your presence. An aberration delivered my food to the table. The sound of the plates cut off your conversation. Soups, meats, vegetables, fruits. Food that I only enjoyed on rare occasions were meticulously presented for me to choose from. Is some of this for you too? Certainly not. I'm too nauseated for anything thicker than this broth at the moment. Enjoy it. The kitchen is happy to be cooking for more than 2 to 3 for a change. I nodded and selected the items I wanted to eat. It looked like Violo continues his reign as the smartest of the living gods. It would have taken one of the other 3 forever to come up with such a quick solution to our little problem. Vivere tapped my affected arm. I'm glad. we can enjoy each other's company again. I nodded in agreement through a mouthful of food. My eyes strayed to the map he toiled over. Wait, what's that? Energy nodes and phenomena zones to stabilize. I waited for him to explain further. Eventually, he did. Violo has vaguely mentioned Life's situation. Yes. Yeah, I thought she was fine though. Nobody in the Isles is freaking out about there being something wrong with her. Because the gods want people to think she's alright. She's actually being held in the worst state for a god, dying over and over. I nearly dropped some of my food. What? Why? Because she opposed the increasingly foul behavior of the other gods. They betrayed her, trapped her within their realm, and now they keep her in a constant state of death and revival. It's fractured her mind, so it takes all she can to hold on to memories between incarnations. Her purpose is not only to make energy, but also to recycle it. She is supposed to take the possibility death decays and reuse it, but she has been unable to fulfill that part of her duties for a while. Instead of making a little bit each time and reusing the rest, she's making new amounts wholesale, against her will, of course. That caused some of the unique phenomena found in our world, like how major sections of Sagas sank into the seas, creating the sand stripes of now. Viola hopes to use that little talent of yours to deal with this little issue by acting in Life's stead. I'm making notes of areas he should focus on. He's going to try and change them. Fix them, of course. I'm quite sure many of the islands in the Chain Isles will be overjoyed to not have the ocean turn acidic twice a year. That's just one example of the folly of those morons. Vivere wrote his next note even more harshly.
Of course.
We probably won't be able to fix all of it in one go. Doing too much could affect the world in a bad way. For now, we'll be content with dealing with the energy problem and laying the groundwork for the future. The gods kept Violo around because they'd always hoped he'd develop Life's talent for change. They figured a human would be easier to control. How joyous it will be when he starts to prove that idea wrong by messing with the phenomena. The natural phenomena of this world were decently documented, so I knew there were many. Many were described as curses from the heavens, punishment for humanity's sins. These two are bold. I knew they plotted to kill the gods, to try and change the world to fit their whims while the gods were still around. That was a level above what I expected of them. You two should stop pretending to be gods. It sounds like a momentous task. Is there anything I can do to help?
How cute.
You're adorable to offer, but no, there isn't. I know my magical capabilities aren't on the same level as yours or Violo's, but I can manage some difficult spells. I got my magic back, so I could do a lot more than you might think. Vivere shook his head. The magic of this place is rather lively. He reached out and tickled one of the teacups. It shuddered and playfully skipped to get more tea from a pot nearby. It's not just the objects. The magic itself is persnickety. We would need to slowly disintegrate you into the magic flow here. Oh, integrate me, not disintegrate me!
Of course.
We will do that. But by the time you'll be able to really mess with the magic of this place on a deep level, this experiment will be over. Perhaps you will be able to help next year. Don't worry. Just by being here, you are helping. Violo does desperately need to figure out how you are made, so he can try to replicate those effects. Honestly, I don't know if he'll have enough time to do that. If he doesn't... Vivere tapped the end of his quill against the map over and over. It will be painful for him. I am so tired of him being in pain, but I know he won't listen to me about it. Vivere paused to cough, patting his chest a bit. He continued to wheeze an uncomfortable amount. He reached out for my hand and gestured for me to pat his back. I did so gently at first. He lightly slammed his fist against the table and shot me a look. Reluctantly, I patted him harder. He coughed, and I watched him spit something hard and white into his hand. I'm going to get Violo. You are going to eat dessert. He pulled me back into my seat. My body just does this from time to time. Unless I'm seizing, there's no reason to bother him. I glared down at my plate for a moment. If he is capable of making replicas for himself, why hasn't he made one for you? Because I need to eat and sleep. Violo's main body can't, so he can endlessly meditate. Besides that, replicas need to be extremely close to the original to function properly. Violo would be more comfortable if he didn't have the litany of scars he does, but he has to have them because it causes cognitive dissonance to remove them. Well, that dissonance isn't too terrible. It is exceedingly distracting, and distraction can get a magic user killed by their own powers very quickly. Your father doesn't look like a human at all. Father has always been... Vivere pursed his lips. Eccentric? Honestly, I love him dearly, but odd would be a better fit. As someone who fiddled with necromancy, his concept of self and soul is different than most. Thus, he is more open to such differences compared to humans. Aren't you technically not a human? I was made in their image. I need to be moved to a whole new body, and the shock of going into a body dramatically different from my original one could kill me. Well, moving my soul at all will kill me. My soul is too fragile. Just touching it sent me into an hour-long seizure and left me with this. He stroked a hand across the rose pattern in his vitiligo. It also actually contributed to my lungs being weaker. Needless to say, seeing slight permanent detriments to my health just for trying has disincentivized further tests. I reached out towards the marks on his chest out of curiosity. He moved his hand and tilted his chest closer to me. His skin felt unnaturally cold for a human, and I could feel his heart in his chest. The rhythm felt odd compared to a normal person's. There was an unnatural stutter that waxed and waned at random. The skin with the rose pattern felt hot to the touch in comparison to the rest of him, like blood remained right behind the markings. Does it hurt? I pulled my hand back. Today, no. Sometimes, yes. I have 2 drawers full of medicine for a reason. As much as I detest that little snow crow, he does make good medicine. It's made my condition much more manageable. Amos makes medicine for you? I couldn't think of a polite way to say hate your guts. Vivere chuckled at my distress, patting the back of my hand. He is disgustingly and pathetically kind. It's what gets him in so much trouble. That's why Violo is so paranoid about that little new pet he has. The little idiot would probably let the rat smack him around if it found the behavior pleasing. He's easy to abuse, and it constantly winds Violo up for worrying about him. I hate it. Vivere shook his head. Of course, his kindness does has its limits. The kindest thing he could do would be to make me immortal. He'd never risk Violo learning the secret, though. Apparently, it will allow for Violo's cruelty to flourish. Cruelty. You can't be cruel to monsters. Vivere sat back in his chair. He's so sanctimonious about our actions when he is just as capable of being vindictive and petty. He just thinks his hands are clean since he's too much of a coward to do the dirty work himself. Vivere's breathing began to get ragged. Then he goes and picks fights with Violo because he feels betrayed for some reason, when he is the one who betrayed the love of my life, someone he supposedly loved as well. I reached for him when he began to violently cough. Vivere, pause. Take a breath. I rubbed his back and patted firmly a few times. He coughed up a few more pieces of white. These weren't as thick as the first one, at least. We should talk about something else. I don't want you to be upset. Vivere took a few slow, ragged breaths. You're right. We shouldn't focus on that ass. We should focus on discussing a meal plan for you moving forward. We may not be able to always eat with you, so I'd like to make sure we have your favorite foods ready as an apology. He fussed over the days to come, pouting about how busy he would be. A particularly harsh cough interrupts him again. Damn it all. I might need to go get one of my tonics. We can walk and talk, but you need to finish eating. I'm fine, I finished. I gestured to the plate I had indeed finished. Vivere's cute tendency to go off on random side tangents allowed me ample time to eat. Come on. I offered my arm to him. Vivere pouted before reluctantly moving to stand. I said not a word during his slow process. He leaned heavily against me, making me worry further. I didn't voice my concerns out loud, knowing he'd only find them annoying. Aberration scurried through the dining hall, gathering plates. One reached for his things, but I just grabbed them on my spare arm. They can carry that. Let me do this for you. I want to help you, and this is something I can do. He let out the most adorable little noise of frustration. If you and Violo had your way, I would lounge on a couch like some prized opera singer. Can you sing? Better than Violo can. Our journey to the pair's room was leisurely. After this last experiment, things will begin to wind down at last. Well, a bit. Our part will be done, so we'll be able to focus on you. What would you like to do? Slaughter your old enemies? Help some old friends? We are quite influential. Anything you want, we can do, treasure. You just need to ask. Are you really offering this to me? Because really all I want is the both of you. I mean, heck, I'm more than happy to just be here. And I feel like I'm probably the worst victim to have. Can I leave? We'd prefer if you didn't. I mean, it'd be so dangerous. Vivere, I am someone who walked among the winds and constantly treaded new grounds. I don't know if I'd adapt well to being in one spot. You could try, at least for a bit. His grip on my arm tightened. We just want to keep you safe. We can always talk about it more once things are dealt with. Please, stay with us. Give us more time. His bleeding almost made me think he knew what I was planning. I swallowed around the lump in my throat. I'll think about it. Thank you. Violo will be so happy when he hears this. So happy. His excitement was dashed by a dizzy spell. Vivere! Sorry. I'm still stabilizing. I cannot wait to be able to be excited properly again. His tired smile made it harder to stop at the door. I wanted to follow him inside. We'll have this conversation in detail later. I now have to rifle through my drawers. I could keep you company. I'm going to nap afterwards, but you are sweet to offer. I promise we will have all the time in the world to chat later. He reached for my hand and kissed the back of it. For now, go stretch your legs. Enjoy a bit of freedom before this place gets chaotic again. Okay. Vivere shut the door, and I waited outside for a few heartbeats. I raised my fist to knock on the door, but I pulled it down again. I was supposed to be leaving this place. Leaving! I no longer wanted to, and that made me really question how bad my psyche had degraded over the years. The following walk I had left me stewing on my thoughts long enough that I found myself with only more questions and no answers. They really did change their focus. The next few days were spent with Violo and Vivere fussing over me whenever their busy schedules allowed it. During that time, not a single experiment was run. Instead, I found myself having long conversations over snacks for the first time in a long time. Things began to tinge with a sense of normalcy. I will return to my room to sit and stare at the wall, knowing that the boat meant to take me from here grew closer by the day. The words lingered in my mind. I chased those thoughts around like an impatient hound, pacing circles in my room. For the first time in over a decade, my stomach remained full. I could ask for just about anything, and one of the creatures in this place would go find it, assuming it couldn't hobble to me itself. My nightmares had reduced dramatically, and when one resurfaced, I'd wake to Violo soothing me into a deeper slumber. My room always smelled of lavender and chamomile, and the air seemed fresher. Vivere seemed to be a little bit weak still, but he went out of his way to keep me entertained, telling me about all of the magical theories only the rich got to learn in the Isles. One would almost think I'd met them by chance on an adventure, not by them rescuing me from a slaver ship. I stared at today's breakfast by my bed. The tray was full of my favorite things, with a variety of drinks clustering on one corner. The utensils wriggled about, and one of the teacups seemed to be practically wagging its handle like a tail. I had gotten used to such adorable displays. The castle and its pots reflected their masters better than any mirror. The aberrations had seemingly moved on to practically worshipping me, bowing low and backing away from me if I needed to pass by. I'd never gotten this kind of royal treatment before in my life. Of course, someone as unlucky as me needed to be kidnapped first. I ate the food leisurely, not afraid of someone stealing it or something stealing me away from my meal. The pair never called me away from food. No, if they needed me, they always sent the request after my tray had tottered off with empty plates. A small note had been wrapped around an orange rose. "Hello, treasure. Violo is going to be locked away in the musty library of his today." Violo's comment was scribbled almost illegibly nearby, a sign he relied on elementals to guide his pen. "My library is not musty!" He's going to try to make a new replica. It's a delicate process, so he won't be able to look anywhere but in front of him. I know you've been wanting to get out of the castle some, so I've requested Father give us a hand. Meet me in the garden when you're ready, and we can go tour the jungle below the mountain. Stay near sunshine! Traps! I eagerly await your presence. Be out for dinner! Me? I'll be out for dinner! Violo had scribbled enough on the page that the ink had slightly warped Vivere's words. I could still make it out. I'd briefly mentioned looking through the jungle below, wondering how Vivere got down there. The tropical jungle looked interesting to me, and I wondered what the pair kept in it. Thus, I grabbed my things and went to look for Vivere. The garden was screaming. The horrible sounds of wailing and sobbing ran through my body like a shock, taking me back to horror scenes I'd endured before. I dashed through the writhing maze of greenery and crying flowers. I half expected to find some kind of magical detonation and a small horde of wounded civilians. What I found was, in a way, worse. No! Vivere's body stiffly seized on the ground, head twisted back in agony. Black ooze poured from the seams of his body, leaking out around the wild, unnatural flowers that grew out of him. His eyes were overtaken by bone growths, shaped like flowers, and rotten flowers leaked out of his mouth within the black foam. Even from a distance, I could see he was struggling to breathe. He was dying. Vivere! I raced to his side, sliding across the grass that was slick with tears. The flowers nearby were reaching for him. I opened my third eye and saw that the plants were desperately trying to siphon away the extra energy, threatening to burst further out of his form. Their lower level of sentience made it impossible for them to remove the energy with enough efficiency to be effective. The raw power burned my palms when I reached out towards it. It felt like trying to tame a lightning elemental, pure energy lashing out at anything it could touch. Oh, winds of the sky, hear me! I command your attention and obedience! The stagnant air exploded with energy, crawling towards me, elementals pressing against my skin. I closed my eyes to focus and fractured my attention. One hand of my will pushed the elementals towards Violo's study, racing across the castle to reach him. They met resistance, the other local elementals twisting to reject them. The other hand of my will began to rapidly pull the damaging energy out of Vivere and into me. My temperature shot up dangerously fast, and I knew I wouldn't survive the onset long. The fever would kill me in minutes. I had to get it out. I gathered some of the raw energy and poured it through the elementals. A wave trail of fire shot through the air elementals igniting into flames. The flame burned against the castle door, which shook in confusion at the assault. The rest of the energy I directed upwards. I pushed their weight into the clouds above, making them grow darker and darker. Vivere's seizure didn't even begin to die down. I felt my body begin to creak and give under the weight of his power. Not just his power, Violo's power too. This close, I could tell the difference between the thin webbing that made up Vivere's energy and the reinforcing black ooze that wrapped around it protectively. I hammered against the door to Violo's study before moving away and sending the energy around the building instead. The glass shattered much easier than the door did. Rain began to pour down onto Vivere, and thunder and lightning roared above. The energy in Vivere slowly seemed to wind down. I was able to stop pulling on it finally, and I put both of my hands onto Vivere's chest to focus on fixing his energy. I rolled him onto his side and began to evenly distribute his fuzzy, uneven energy throughout his body. I almost didn't even notice Violo collapsing onto his other side. I saw that familiar white light and made sure to pull my energy away from it.
No!
Tears poured from Violo's eyes while he worked. Vivere's blood poured onto both of us as Violo slowly began to fix his seams. The rain only grew louder as we worked. In a way, I was grateful for it. The cool water helped cool Vivere down. Violo reached for Vivere's head, shaking hands, unable to hold him steady. I got onto one knee, gently pulling Vivere up. I rested him against my upward knee, and I straightened his head for Violo to do whatever he needed to. Violo very tenderly dissipated the bone growth around Vivere's eyes, revealing that they were thankfully only skin growths. Mud, water, and blood soaked all three of us. I felt Vivere's breathing return back to its usual slight wheeze, and I used my spare hand to wipe the remnants of foam and petals from his mouth. Once he seemed stable, Violo's hand still fluttered about, his frazzled, unseeing eyes scanning Vivere's body over and over. Violo, we need to take him inside. Violo continued to examine him. I reached out and grabbed his chin, pulling him to look at me. Violo! A hint of recognition and acknowledgement crossed his face then. We need to take him inside. Help me! Clarity slowly surfaced through the shock, and Violo nodded frantically. Dark shadows gently wrapped around Vivere, pulling him up off the ground. Violo moved the now comatose Vivere slowly. It took me nudging him every now and then to stop him from trying to pause and check for Vivere's pulse again and again. Not that I could blame him. I kept my other hand firmly pressed against Vivere's wrist, feeling that slow, sleeping pulse with its unusual rhythm to comfort myself. The castle was dead silent. Aberrations cowered against the walls, and the curtains and walls curled inwards towards the sickly Vivere. We entered their dim room. I was fully prepared to just endure, but the candles lit themselves for me. Violo stood, breathing raggedly between sobs, focused again on Vivere. I looked at the three of us and then turned to the room. We need clean water and towels. Where are their clothes? The room burst with energy then. Within seconds, a tub was padding into the room, sloshing water out of itself. An armoire extended its rods out, holding up a variety of their attire. I put my hand gently on Violo's shoulder. He looked up at me, still lost somewhere in his own head. Help me get him undressed. We need to clean him up. It took Violo a moment to process the words, and I did have to repeat myself more than once. Eventually, he got it. We got to work removing the now ruined robe Vivere wore. The motions of gently scrubbing Vivere's skin seemed to help pull Violo out of whatever he was stuck in. Be gentle with his scalp. His gruff warning helped me relax a bit. Of course, I'm being very gentle. I promise. Once Vivere was cleaned up and dried off, Violo washed his hands thoroughly before moving to apply some poultices and oils to his skin and hair. We had the sleeping man propped up in bed soon enough. Your turn. I tugged on Violo's shoulder. He stayed rooted by their bed for a moment, hands trailing through the blood on his body. Violo cringed with a half sob, and I just nudged him towards the water. I didn't expect the tapestry of scars I found on his back and arms. How he managed to fight with so much scar tissue along his shoulders and joints, I had no idea. I lathered soap into his hair, keeping my expression neutral when parts of his replica's hair withered into ash at the merest touch. He looked slightly like a drowned rat by the time we finished, and he darted back to Vivere's side. I took the time to clean myself up too, getting all of the mud and blood off of me. My clothes were ruined, but the armoire offered me some more of their clothes to wear instead. I pushed back the curtains to their bed, finding Violo resting on his side, hand on Vivere's heart. I reached down to get his attention again, tapping on the bed behind him. Violo, I'm going to give you guys some space. His hand shot back and gripped my wrist. Stay. His hand shook too much for me to say no. I awkwardly crawled into their space and sat behind Violo, monitoring the two of them. Vivere looked better than I expected him to, and my third eye revealed the alchemical poultices were working overtime on his body. Violo didn't let go of my wrist as he pressed closer against Vivere. Thank you. Thank you, Lion. Of course. As I watched the two finally begin to rest, I found myself unable to avoid the issue. I truly thought of them as people now, and I was really beginning to feel like I wanted to stay. I mean, I'd made friends in weirder situations before. Was this really too far of a stretch? Would it really be such a bad thing to stay with them? It's not like they could do much worse to me than I'd already been through. I ended up dozing off while ruminating. The smell of fresh roses woke me up the next morning. I rubbed my eyes a few times to make sure I was seeing it right. Vivere sat up in bed, hair rumpled with a brush in hand, trying to tame it. He knows to braid my hair before bed. Vivere?
Ah, hello.
I went to push up, only to find that Violo had latched onto my arms. I gently tugged on them, trying to free myself. His arms were like a vice grip, stiff as a corpse. Actually, this replica wasn't breathing at all. Someone's been barnacled. Vivere snorted and gestured at the two of us with his brush. I have been too. He's got his ankles crossed around my thigh. Neither of us will be moving until he wakes that puppet up. You're okay. I collapsed in relief, not even minding Violo's extra weight on my arms.
Treasure.
Of course I'm okay. I am very hardy, despite my fragility, you know. Honestly, I was hoping that I was wrong about possibly having a seizure soon. You knew? I was guessing. He swatted me with the brush. Your condition was quite the shock to my body, so it's not surprising it will culminate in a seizure. I was hoping that taking care of my body and keeping it stable would prevent it, but I was wrong. Should have had Violo siphoning off and stabilizing my energy, but he was so busy. You know he'd never be too busy for you. That doesn't make him not busy. Beyond that, where was your father? Doesn't he normally hover around you when you're not feeling well? Only when I show severe signs of compromise, or someone I don't like is out and about. Since we trust you and I appeared fine, Father felt comfortable enough to go check on the seas. He dragged his brush down his hair harshly. I'm already going to receive quite the scolding when he wakes up. Can we not make it worse? I'm not trying to scold you, Vivere. You're not a child. He let out a disbelieving hum. I mean it. I'm just glad to see you're okay. I'm surprised Violo isn't here, though. From what the elementals are telling me, he got summoned into a conversation with Amare.
Of course.
He can't reject their summons. Since we are at the near of the experimental track, they're probably discussing that ship Nakare is sending here. My blood ran cold. You knew.
Of course.
Nothing happens on this island that we do not know about. Amare said... Amare lied. And we're both pretty sure they're lying right now about letting you leave alive. I didn't mention I had begun to have my own doubts. Amare does seem invested in wanting to get you away from us. Violo is already weighed heavily in terms of power. He is a lucidity. He has been blessed by life. You make a second gift from the fragments of dream. It heavily skews the balance of power further in Violo's direction. Amare doesn't like that, but they'll have to cope. Cope and see, Amare, you piece of shit! Vivere smiled down at me, reaching to stroke my cheek.
Treasure.
We have no intention of letting you come to harm. Of course, the fact this means you need to stay by our side is a lovely side benefit. I don't know. Vivere pouted in a way similarly to Violo did. I think I want to, though. Well, it is a big decision. Luckily, you have time. We.
My sunshine.
It's so sweet! Violo's replica sprung to life and wrapped himself around Vivere's neck.
My love.
Oh dear. The sudden weight of Violo on Vivere's unbalanced frame sent him collapsing onto Violo and I braced myself, wheezing slightly while Violo couldn't seem to decide if he wanted to giggle or cry. My sunshine. My sunshine. You had me so worried. We are crushing lion, you know. Violo blinked a few times and slackened his grip. He leaned back against my chest to look up at me. Sorry. It's okay. Violo sat up on his knees on the bed. Vivere sat up straight, and I followed suit, not wanting to be collapsed on him again. Violo began to fuss over Vivere, as the other man had predicted. I wanted to move to leave, but Violo's hand snatched my wrist before I could even think of it. His thumb rubbed against the skin of my forearm over and over. Honestly, you are lucky that Lion was there to help. It would have killed everyone otherwise. Vivere and I shared a grimace. You should have told me you were still seeing an imbalance. I know. We could have solved this a lot sooner. Yes, I know. Violo, enough. I patted the top of his hand. What happened with Amare? Well, that is a conversational shift. I'm curious as well. Would they talk about our dear treasure's rescue ship? They were actually asking me if I was planning on killing them sometime soon. The ragged noise of surprise I let out had both men giving me pitying looks. Apparently, now that the gift has been deciphered, we no longer require its host, and the host is a threat to the world or some shit. You know how they are. Of course, when the little snow crow popped in, the story changed to talk about how they were going to free Lion from my grasp. To be expected. I bought us some more time by mentioning that the experiments weren't technically over. I'm closer to done than I told them, and I plan on using the extra time to reinforce our security. That snake of theirs is probably going to slide its way in here. A snake? They shook their heads. A snake. A devil. Amare's lapdog. They're a brilliant mage, but they're awful with the dirty work of killing. That isn't just obliterating foes with magic. For subtler deaths, they rely on it. Snake is a devil of deceit. It can almost perfectly hide itself as someone or something. Devils can't look like people, not outside of the cursed ice mountain in the far north. If it were still just a weak little thing that crawled down Hemus's mountain, sure, but it's been feeding for thousands of years. Modified with Amaris magic, no less. It's dangerous, and every time we think we're ready for it, it still gets in. Not this time, damn it. I'll figure it out. We've still got time. Violo gave me a confident, almost cocky smile.
My dear.
We'll keep you safe, treasure. I promise. I met his smile with a nod. I trusted them to at least want to keep me safe. Whether Amari was really a threat or not, I wasn't sure. I still had time to think about it. Oh, Anyway, that was Sacrarium Pario. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys do want to play this for yourselves, the link to the game will be in the description below. And from what I've read so far, it seems that the next release is going to be the final chapter for Sacrarium Pario, and I'm so excited. I really want to see like how we are going to like face off against Amari. I don't know. I think it's probably like the route I'm on, but this is just such a cool route. Like, God, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope you guys have been enjoying it too. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of the day, and as always, I'll be seeing you in the next video. This is Lion, signing off. Ciao.